What's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST, Fantasy Sports Today. My name's Matt Striker, his name's Joe Pisapia, and this is the place for winners. You want to dominate, whether it's season-long fantasy, I don't care what your record is, this is the spot. Cashing out in DFS, God bless you, we're with you, this is the spot. Straight-up wagering, we're your guys. Joe, what I love about today is we get to talk about almost like a market clearing out here from a betting standpoint, from a straight up fantasy standpoint. I look at the teams that have made big market wide receiver moves, and the AFC is really starting to come into play. But there's so much more to talk about on the NFC side, on some defenses, also on some injuries, top names out for the year. My man, we need you now more than ever.
Well, look, the best part about this year is at the halfway mark, we really have a clear notion of who teams are, who they aren't, and that helps so much because there's so much data now to go on, right? The first month of the season is really hard. For instance, the Seattle Seahawks, right? They got off to that great start. Well, was it just the opponents they were playing? The answer was yes, it was just the opponents they were playing. And now we understand the identity, and teams are changing their identity on the fly and saying we are still in this thing the way certain teams have overperformed or underperformed. And I think this is where we can really make that playoff push in our fantasy leagues, but also from a wagering perspective, really put some of this knowledge we have and some of this data we have from fantasy into the betting market. And that is my favorite time of year. So it's going to be a rip roar in 2 hours here. We got some great stuff for you. And you mentioned about more wide receivers moving. Like, we've got the trade deadline looming this Tuesday. Yet we're already having, I don't know who's left to deal at this point. Honestly, like, what are we doing here? Amari Cooper is gone. Devontae Adams went. DeAndre Hopkins went. And Deontay Johnson went this week too. Baltimore Ravens said, no more drops. We've had it. So I think the moment Rashad Bateman dropped that ball last week in that Cleveland Browns game was the moment they were on the phone with the Carolina Panthers saying, what is it going to take to get Deontay Johnson? So Deontay Johnson finds himself a Baltimore Raven. He's going to be active today. How much he plays, again, that's going to be in question. It's also a more run-heavy attack anyway on offense. But you can't discount. It's a really good move for them, solidifying this group here. Rashad Bateman, unfortunately, he had that one splash game. Zay Flowers has some moments, but I think Deontay Johnson gives him somebody who's a competent veteran in this mix now, where now Lamar Jackson has a really good shot to win another MVP and go on a run. They play with their food, the Baltimore Ravens. That's what they do. They have these opportunities to put down teams, and they literally last week let it slip through their fingers on offense and on defense. So going out there, putting all the chips in, because that's what you've done when you've gone to acquire Derrick Henry. You're saying, look, this is it. We have to fix the secondary. I'd love to see them pick up some more help there. So watch for some defensive players to move potentially this week. That could happen. Also making moves, the Colts, who are making a move at quarterback. So Anthony Richardson out, Joe Flacco in, which I understand that because this is a team right now that has a 4-4 record. This is a team that's looking at the AFC. They are 2 games out of the South. They still have games against the Jaguars and Titans left. They have maxed out their games against the Texans, so that is over. But considering how the Bengals have played this year, they have a better record than the Bengals. They have a better record right now than the Dolphins and the Jets, 2 teams that people really thought were going to be in that playoff mix, and they're not. So I know it really hurts all these dynasty managers that have Anthony Richardson or everybody who had a lot of shares of Richardson. His career isn't over. But if he kept playing this year in this circumstances right now, the Colts season would basically be over. And this is a team last year that Shane Steichen took to the playoffs with Gardner Minshew. And Joe Flacco took a Cleveland Browns team without Nick Chubb to the playoffs last year. All of a sudden, Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs become very relevant. Jonathan Taylor coming back hopefully healthy now. So you have a situation here where if you roll off a couple wins in the month of November, you are in the thick of the playoffs. And if you get eliminated in the last couple weeks, then you put Richardson back in there and you hope for the best going into next year. But I am all for this decision. This is a football decision. And for people who are complaining about it, you shouldn't, because it's going to rejuvenate some of these wide receivers like Pittman and Downs specifically, who are both inside the top 36 this week in my rankings. And I'm curious what your thoughts are, because this was a very controversial topic, but Richardson has performed about as bad as you can at the quarterback position this year, which is unfortunate because he's got a lot of tools. But to me, this is the right football call. Forget fantasy. The Colts are in this thing still. What do you think, Matt? Are they still alive as much as I think they are?
Absolutely, 100%. Flacco provides security, and it doesn't matter what type of market you're looking at, a wagering market, a fantasy market, a stock market, whatever it is. When you have security, you have an understanding of how to approach a market. So what Joe Flacco does is takes out the volatility. And we can have a conversation, and we kind of were having it before the show came on the air with regards to what Richardson's saying, yo, man, I'm tired, I got to sit down, speaks to about volumes of him, the money that he's making, the generation. That's a total different conversation. But straight up for us, having Flacco there, you mentioned that it increases the fantasy viability of everyone around him in his offensive ecosystem. It also changes a lot what Vegas is going to do when you look at some of the futures markets. And sometimes you can find that hole somewhere if you really have an eye and catch plus money at this point. You said it, I'm agreeing, and it's going to be a great show. Right now, we have stats, we have security, and we have a calm understanding of the market. Now's the time to attack.
It is. And also some good news, bad news for the Houston Texans. Bad news is they lost to the Jets. No Stephon Diggs, no Nico Collins. Still, the good news is they are going to get Nico Collins back next week. So this is your last chance window to acquire Nico Collins in a trade. And if you can, do it, because he's clearly the guy now without Diggs. He's absolutely the guy in terms of target share in that offense you want. So it's unfortunate to lose Diggs for the year with an ACL injury. Also out for the year, Christian Kirk with that collarbone injury. So that's unfortunate too. If it wasn't for bad luck, the Jacksonville Jaguars would have no luck at all. That's kind of where they're at. And the luck keeps getting worse because they play the Eagles this week in Philadelphia. And the Eagles are starting to pick things up. You know, last year, the hard lessons of the Super Bowl hangover, the tough schedule. You know, when you come off that Super Bowl, you get that number one schedule you got to play the next year, injuries, mental fatigue, physical fatigue of the long season going in all the way through the playoffs and playing into February. It takes a toll on a team. Just ask the 49ers, who are just begging for that bye this week that they finally got, right? So you're in a spot right now. The Philadelphia Eagles seem to have figured things out with their coordinators. They seem to be rolling right now. I know Washington's a fun team, too. We'll keep an eye on that East. Yes. It seems like a two-team race because the Cowboys certainly can't get out of their own way. Also not getting basically anywhere today is Ezekiel Elliott, who's staying at home because the Dallas Cowboys said, enough out of you.
Disciplinary reasons?
That's what we've been told, apparently. So
weird.
Apparently somebody's unhappy with someone, and Dalvin Cook is now the alternative backup. But I still think this is good news for Rico Dowdle, because Dowdle has been the guy to me that is clearly the best back at this backfield just by default. And I know last week he didn't play due to illness, and I think Zeke last week probably wanted more work because Dowdle was out. Instead, Dalvin Cook came up, and that workload got split again. So as long as Dowdle's healthy, he's still that guy. There were rumors that they were kicking the tires on Travis Etienne, who's been dealing with injuries of his own. We'll see if that works out right now for them in a trade. We still got a few days left, but also good news for the New England Patriots. Drake May is going to play this week. He's cleared concussion protocol. They've got a good matchup here against the Titans after coming off a huge win against the Jets last week. Maybe they could put another one together and be a little plucky. Anything can possibly happen. We know that. It's football. Also, without Mike Evans today, again, with the hamstring issue, you know, we told you when this injury happened, expect a month. And now we're halfway through that. And I don't expect him anytime soon. So if you have Mike Evans, maybe you look to deal him if you're in a fight for your life in the standings. Tough matchups tonight, too, going into tomorrow night's games here for the Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I always like Baker Mayfield as an underdog, Matt. What do you think about Baker as the underdog covering these 9 points?
Yeah, nine I think is the interesting way to approach it. You've mentioned that you like Mayfield as an underdog quite a bit. This is a matter of the weapons and what that game script looks like. The 9 is interesting because I think somewhere within there you can find that little hole that I love to talk about. But if you are ahead, and I always say this, if you are ahead, then that's the chance to take, because that's one of Joey P's favorites. We're going to watch and see, and I hope we're all ahead by that point. Joe?
Yeah, let me tell you, Tampa, I think, can keep this one close. And the Chiefs have not been the kind of offense to put teams away this year, too. Right. So I'm not saying the Chiefs are going to lose at home, but I do think Baker can make it interesting. We're going to make the next 2 hours interesting. We're going to talk DFS. We're going to talk about waivers. We're going to talk about start sit. And when we come back, the boom players of Week 9 in the NFL.
It's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it.
good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards.
That was
thinking!
But he had that program was already going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
Tatum has fixed that hitch. He now shoots it at the top of his jump. His release is really pure. And right now he's shooting it at 49% from three. Now, I'm not saying he's going to shoot at 49% from three for the season. But if he's at 42, 43%, Lord have mercy, look out below. Jason Tatum, right now, my number 6 player in the NBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class of the Heisman with those two games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those two games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. I mean, what is he, a sixth-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here. The most important thing you will do today is be a part of this program. The way you can really enhance that experience at SportsGrid TV. Keep the conversations going. Look, sometimes, well, more me than Joe, but some things are said here on the show, on a lot of these shows where you want to chime in. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Oh my gosh, imagine that, a world where people can voice disagreement. Yes, you can do that at SportsGrid TV. And Joe, you love to get into it with a lot of our fans, especially over this next particular segment, the Fantasy Booms. You have been blessing so many people with such good advice, and I just know the haters are always going to be there, but that's what we love, right? Especially me. Let's talk booms. Let's start with the quarterback.
Yeah, let's start with Matthew Stafford, rostered in just 50% of leagues still. He's my favorite streamer of the week. He's a top 10 quarterback as far as I'm concerned. In DFS, this week again, this matchup against Seattle is so good. He is underpriced, especially on DraftKings. And that's one thing you look for, right? FanDuel's got one pricing, DK's got another. And to me, I'm looking at that DK price, and it is hard to pass up, man. He is really good. And look, you can't look at what he's done throughout the year because he hasn't done much. Why? Because he has not had Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua. Now, Puka was dealing with a knee injury again this week. He said he's going to play. It's not a big deal. I guess he just tweaked something there. But you're going to get Kupp. You're going to get Puka. And when you get those two guys, this is a whole different ball game. And just for some stats out there, I mentioned earlier, I made a quip about the Seattle Seahawks not being who we thought they might be in the month of September. Well, since week 4, Seattle has allowed the 7th highest passer yards per game, the 5th most passing touchdowns, the 2nd highest passer rating, and the 4th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. So you tell me, do you want to start Matthew Stafford this week? Because I do. I absolutely do. Those stats do not lie. And when you also look at the fact that, DK Metcalf's out, this offense on the other side could struggle, they could just keep giving that ball over and over to the Rams. And the Rams are another team, too. You talked about the Colts just now. The Rams aren't dead yet. They're just not. And this is a huge in-division game, and they're going to have another game against the Seahawks later on. The Cardinals are 4-4 at the top of this division. The 49ers are 4-4. The Seahawks are 4-4. Now, San Fran's on a bye. If the Rams win today, guess what? They're 4-4. Seattle's 4-5. 49ers are going to stay right where they are, right? And if the Cardinals lose, all of a sudden, this is practically a tie again. So this division is still up very much in play. And Matthew Stafford is in a smash spot in fantasy today. So I would be streaming him over a lot of QBs and single quarterback leagues and Superflex. You're very happy to have him right now. But this is a really good situation for Matthew Stafford. One of my favorite pickups of the week and one of my favorite plays for today.
All right. I love it. Great job as always. Clip it and put it out there, and let's see if it comes to fruition. All right. Next, let's move to a running back who, for a while, was helping everyone with the anytime touchdown. Then the team, I don't know, the wheels just fell off. Let's return to the team and to the running back. Joe, they have a soft matchup at Carolina, one would think.
One would know. Talk about the Panthers, how bad they've been. They have been awful. They've allowed 15 touchdowns to opposing running backs this year. So if there's a lock bet of the week, it's Alvin Kamara to score a touchdown. Just bet it. I don't care what the juice is. Put it with the over. We'll talk more about that in the fantasy prop segment in hour 2. No other team, by the way, has given up more than 11. So 15. Big difference there. And Derek Carr's back. And this is the big difference too. So Carr's going to do a much better job of moving this offense already. It's a good soft first matchup for that Carr return. Olave's back healthy too. So Alvin Kamara's already had a very strong workload this year. It's hard to imagine he's not going to get that workload today. Kendra Miller goes on IR. Williams is not healthy. So this is basically the Alvin Kamara show today. And you imagine they have a lead at some point in this game too, and a lot more Alvin Kamara in the second half as you sit on that lead. So to get the lead, you have to score fantasy points. And then to hold that lead and just sit on the clock, you're going to get more fantasy points from Alvin Kamara. So Kamara, another great play. He is the ECR expert consensus ranked 3rd running back in week 9. And you could argue maybe he should be 1 based on this matchup against the Carolina Panthers. You could even see multiple touchdowns. You could bet that first touchdown. There's a lot of ways to go at the Alvin Kamara situation today, but a really good start in fantasy this week.
All right, let's pivot now to another running back, this time from Cleveland. They have the Chargers. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the Chargers on paper are a good run defense, but you have to also look at the schedule they played. And if you look at the first few weeks of the schedule they played, they didn't play a lot of teams that ran the football very well anyway, all season, anywhere. So I think it's a little bit of a misnomer. And this is why, when we get to this point in the year, the data is so much easier to parse through because you can really say, well, this is not a good run team. That's not good a run team. So maybe they're not great against the run. Maybe they were just playing teams that aren't good at running the football. Because if you look a couple weeks ago, James Conner ran for 101 on them, right? So now you got Nick Chubb, who, by the way, last week looked really good, making jump cuts, making some big runs against the Ravens, the best run defense right now in the NFL. Nick Chubb is the only guy this season to run for more than 50 yards against the Ravens. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Because right now, Nick Chubb is underpriced, underutilized, and he's got a bye coming up next week. So I expect basically a full workload from Nick Chubb in this game. I think he's got great touchdown equity. This could be that game where he kind of blows up, and then week 10, you rest him, and then you come back for that stretch run, and all of a sudden, maybe the Cleveland Browns are not dead yet either.
Right. All right. Let's button it up here. You talked with glow of how much you love Matthew Stafford. He's got to throw the football to someone. Who's it going to be?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Cooper Kupp, a lot of Cooper Kupp today. Big in-division matchup here. You're going to get a lot of Kyren Williams. You're still going to get Puka Nacua, but because of the Puka Nacua injury this week, I am going to favor Kupp. If you want to do both, that's fine. In a DFS lineup, just go all in. If you want to get Kyren involved too, that's perfectly acceptable. But in my opinion, I think you look at a really good matchup here. Seattle is one that, they're just not good with the zone coverage. And that's something that Cooper Kupp is just going to eat up. And I just think that's the guy that you want in these scenarios. So Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, that pairing is a really good one. If these two wide receivers can just stay on the field, the Rams are really in this thing. And this was one of the teams that we talked about. We said, if it's not the 49ers, who is it? And we both thought the Rams might be that team. When in August we were having this discussion. And then injuries kind of crushed those hopes and dreams. But the 49ers did not run away with this division. The 49ers have had their struggles as we thought they might. And now all of a sudden we're looking at a spot where Seattle doesn't look like really that defense can compete. They've had injuries with DK Metcalf as well and Ken Walker at certain times. You never know who the Arizona Cardinals are. They've been plucky sometimes and other times underwhelming. Maybe the Rams are still in this thing. So those are the booms for this week. 2 running backs that I think are in great spot, quarterback and a wide receiver tandem. When we return, we're going to look at the bust for week 9, going in the other direction.
it's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Tatum has fixed that hitch. He now shoots it at the top of his jump, his release is really pure. And right now he's shooting it at 49% from three. Now, I'm not saying he's going to shoot at 49% from three for the season. But if he's at 42, 43%, Lord have mercy, look out below. Jason Tatum, right now, my number 6 player in the NBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. Brady, I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class of the Heisman with those two games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those two games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. You know, I mean, what is he, a 6th-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today, the place where the producer gets in here and says mics are hot, and you know you have to cough, but you don't do it. But it's going to come because I said it. It's time now to go to Fantasy Busts, and with that, we're going to turn to Joey P, and we're going to start with a running back with a toe issue and an opportunity to play against a defense that's probably going to destroy them collectively. So I'll let you take it from there while I hit the cough button.
Yeah, Kansas City Chiefs, second best against the run this year of any other team in the NFL. And Bucky Irving already has a toe issue and a game script that could be in the negative. So this is just a bad confluence of events, right? What's that old movie? A series of unfortunate events? Well, that could be the feeling here for Bucky Irving. You don't like running backs with toe issues. We've seen this many times here. They say, oh, it's questionable. Oh, maybe a game time decision. And then they play and then it's just not good. So toe foot issues about the worst thing you could possibly get here as a running back. And it's not his backfield completely either anyway, because Rachaad White is there. And if it is a negative game script, well, Rachaad White's going to work out of that passing game on you. I'd see him on the field a lot more than you're going to see Bucky Irving. And that's unfortunate. So it's a bad matchup, bad health, bad game script. There's just a lot of bad when it comes to Bucky Irving. So I want to give you pivot points too, because I just don't want to say, well, you know, it's not, you know, you can't start him because you need to start other guys here. So Austin Eckler, especially with Brian Robinson not being 100% healthy, he's a guy you could start this week, I think, over him. You could, Nick Chubb is absolutely a guy I would start over him. Ramondre Stevenson, Tracy, even Chuba Hubbard, especially this week too against New Orleans. You know, they're going to continue to try to run the football as much as they can because they don't really have a lot else to talk about on offense. So those are all guys to me that would be pivot points for Bucky Irving this week. So I just don't like the matchup. I don't like the health. I just don't like anything about this. So I would fade away from it this week, hope for better health next week and a better matchup. And I think that would certainly go a long way. So don't overreact. Don't drop them. Don't do anything like that. Just find an alternative this week at RB2 or flex, because I think there's a lot better choices out there.
All right, we'll stay in the same game, but go on to the other team here. It's a wide receiver for Kansas City that you expect to bust. Who is it and why?
Yeah, Xavier Worthy's just been a lot of bust this year. He's got so much explosiveness, but unfortunately that just really hasn't come to fruition. And I think that's a problem. He is wide receiver 35 on the year because, you know, he scored 3 touchdowns and he's had a few moments in games. Now he's seeing targets, right? I mean, last week he did have the touchdown against Las Vegas, but against Tampa in this matchup here, and DeAndre Hopkins another week deep into the playbook, I have a little concern here how much that 8 target volume is repeatable. He had 8 targets 2 weeks in a row, and before that was 6, 4, 4, 4. So you might see those targets get cut in half this week with Hopkins on the field. And if that happens, it makes threading the needle much harder. I'm not saying you can't start him. You might have to, depending on the makeup of your roster this week. But it is one of those things where I think I would be looking for pivot points. Again, the pivot points, Downs, Pittman, any of those guys I'd rather start. Jacoby Myers is a guy I would rather be starting than him. Keon Coleman, Romeo Doubs, Cedric Tillman, even DeAndre Hopkins himself, I think all are better starts this week than Xavier Worthy.
All right, and now here we have time to really stretch our legs here. A fantastic matchup in the NFC East here. It's going to be the Giants and the Commanders, and there's a particular player for the Giants that you expect to falter. I also want to hear from you what you expect the outcome of this game to be.
Yeah, look, the Commanders' defense got off to a rocky start, and they've been better. Since week 6, Washington has allowed the 4th fewest fantasy points per game to slot wide receivers. So that's something they have tightened up, and that's where Wan'Dale Robinson plays. So that's something to understand. If Malik Neighbors gets a ton of work, Daniel Jones hasn't exactly looked great at the quarterback position this year. I think we can all agree the confidence is shook, to be putting it mildly. So Wan'Dale is another one of these guys where I think he kind of fades out of that top 36 group for me. I know other people will disagree. They like this matchup, but they keep looking at some of the older data. I think guys like Rome Odunze and Xavier Legette are more interesting. I think like Jalen Coker might be an interesting streamer this week. Now that Deontay Johnson's gone, he had a good week last week too, caught a touchdown. He's a guy with some talent there, kind of a under the radar sneaky wide receiver streamer play this week. So keep an eye on those guys and keep an eye on Wan'Dale Robinson, because I just don't love the start. In full PPR leagues, can it get you double digits? Probably. 5 for 50, sure. But I'm just not looking for a big explosive day potentially at a Wan'Dale. I think a lot would have to go his way. It just doesn't feel like recent trend is on his side. And that's the other thing too. You know, how a team starts in September is one thing. How a team is playing in October is another. We talked about that Chargers run defense, right? Well, it was great at one point, not so good recently. Seattle defense played pretty well the first couple of weeks, but they were playing some pretty awful offense, right? Now, not playing so well. So you have to look at the recent trends. That's going to help you a lot more. Let's use those trends and talk a little DFS as we return.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Tatum has fixed that hitch. He now shoots it at the top of his jump, his release is really pure. And right now he's shooting it at 49% from 3. Now, I'm not saying he's shooting 49% from 3 for the season. But if he's at 42, 43%, Lord have mercy, look out below. Jason Tatum, right now, my number 6 player in the NBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class of the Heisman with those 2 games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those 2 games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. You know, I mean, what is he, a 6th-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Striker and Joe Pisapia with you here, giving you everything you need in order to dominate. And no matter what, the conversation is going to inform something larger. So for instance, right now we're going to FST DFS plays, and we're going to break down running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks. But within these conversations, you hear about game script, and you hear some names of other players that may be involved. So let's keep our ears pointed towards Joey P. Let's start in the running back position, the obvious, right? Derrick Henry's at the top, 9,400. Saquon right behind him at 9 even. We've discussed Alvin Kamara is what you believe to be a cherry matchup at 8,800. Let's start here at running backs, and let's just talk about the afternoon overall. What stands out to you, Joe?
Yeah, look, last week we certainly had a situation where we wanted to pay up for running back, right? Like that was something we talked about, and having room with guys like Cedric Tillman to do that, right? And if you listened, all chances are you did okay. This week, I think there's more flexibility at the running back position. Sure, you could go pay up for Saquon. You can go pay up for Derrick Henry. But I think you might be better served to pivot off of that and kind of move a little to that next tier. Alvin Kamara, I don't care if it's chalky. It's the right call. He's going to get a ton of work this week. They're, very streamlined offense right now, right? Memes is out. Those no bub means Rashid Shaheed, out for the year, right? Like they've got Olave, they've got Kamara. That's pretty much the weapons they've got right now. So you might even see some Taysom Hill in this game too, which is going to piss everybody off at some point. But right now, I think the best thing to do is take a look at how lean and mean the Saints are and just invest in it against Carolina, because Carolina is that gift of fantasy points. It just keeps giving. Devon Achane at 7,800 too in a game script that could be going his way. I like him too. I like him to go over his receptions today. He's going to work a fair amount, when Tua's back. The offense is better, but still hasn't been good. And could you imagine they are the least offense in the NFL right now in terms of yardage? I mean, that's crazy to think about this team that's been so prolific offensively to be at the bottom of the barrel this year. It's just nuts. Nick Chubb, another pivot point, right? If you're looking for touchdown equity at 6,500, Nick Chubb gives it to you. So I love the matchup here for him against the Chargers. I am not afraid of the Chargers defense. I know on paper it looks one way, but the recent trend against teams who run the football efficiently is going in that other direction. And the Browns showed you they were able to run the football last week a little bit on the Baltimore Ravens. And if they can run the football on the Baltimore Ravens, give Nick Chubb a couple more carries. Again, some injuries behind him in that backfield too. So nobody's healthy really except Nick Chubb. And I like Nick Chubb in this matchup too. So I think in the running back position here, you fade away. Look, Kyren Williams is also very viable. You could see a situation today where Stafford's prolific, but everybody falls short of the end zone, and Kyren Williams just kind of punches it in, and he has been so consistent with touchdowns. If you're playing cash games, it's hard not to like Kyren Williams in a stack with Stafford and one of those wide receivers, preferably Kupp. But running back, I think, is a little bit more leeway, so I would fade the top group. Look for everybody from Kamara down. I think you might have some better value today.
All right, I like it. I'm sensing a trend here about price salary relief. Let's move to the wide receivers here, see if that trend continues, because if so, it's going to allow us to really pay up at, I'm assuming, quarterback, or maybe it's tight end. Never know with Joe. Joe always says, well, as far as the tight end goes, one touchdown makes a tight end one. But let's start here at wide receiver. Jamar Chase, 9,500. Justin Jefferson, 9,200. Then A.J. Brown, 9 even. For me, I want to pivot all the way down to a guy like Terry McLaurin. I want to get your thoughts, because now if I have Chubb at 6,500 and a guy like McLaurin at 7,400, I mean, I can do whatever I want, no? Joe?
Yeah, you absolutely can. Justin Jefferson at 9,200 is still going to be a very good play. I think he's going to eat those corners alive, personally. So you could always go up for Justin Jefferson. If you're going to pay up, he's my favorite of that group to pay up for. A.J. Brown is in a good spot, too, against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, if you want to pivot away from the Rams that are very chalky, the Eagles are a really good pivot. Hurts has played terrific. Hurts, A.J. Brown, that stack looks really good. If you want to put Saquon in there and just fade everything else in your budget, you could do that, too. Like Kupp over Nakua, that's my approach. Terry McLaurin's very much in this thing as well. If you're looking for some other guys, too, Chris Olave at 6,100 on DK is a good value there. I like him in the PPR. Tillman's just 4,300 on the DK side. On FanDuel side, Chris Olave is 7,100. And I keep mentioning Jalen Coker as a lineup builder. He is just 5,200 over on FanDuel. That's going to help you out quite a bit in a flex spot. Get up to some of these bigger players, because I think Coker actually is going to have some garbage time potential here in this game. You saw it last week a little bit too. Sometimes, when these guys get bumped to the second team like Bryce Young, you start working with some other guys, and Coker's one of those guys. And last week he had 4 catches on 6 targets for 78 and a touchdown. I'm not saying it's completely repeatable. I'm saying it's something to notice and something to recognize that him and Xavier Legette have some talent, and there's nothing but garbage time and upside ahead for them. So they're going to have to be throwing the football at some point in this game, in which case those guys become intriguing to me. So I would keep an eye on those guys. But Kupp is my main target of the day against Seattle. I think he's the best value and return on investment on the board, considering the game script, the situation. Puka being on the field is a good thing too, because defenses have to account for both of them. In some ways, I actually like it more that Puka's on the field for Kupp, even though he's not 100%, because that's like that perfect storm, right? He's on the field, not completely healthy. So look for Cooper Kupp to work a lot, because the opposing defense has to account for both of these guys, and that is a tall task for the Seattle defense.
Yep, love it, really do. All right, of course, obviously, if you really want to cash, you'll build multiple lineups. And in this case here, if we've saved all this capital, I can go right to Josh Allen at 9,000 at the quarterback spot and be fine with it. But then if you look at the bottom of this list here, Joe Flacco's at 7. I mean, Joe, I could build a lot of different lineups. I could build a value lineup. I could build a top-tier lineup. This is going to be a really intriguing week. Your thoughts on the quarterback position and the pricing?
Yeah, look, Flacco's another one of these guys like Winston, plays with reckless abandon, right? He's going to throw the football at 7K, because this replacement happened after the pricing. The pricing hasn't caught up yet, so there's opportunity. Now, it is a tough matchup. It is the Vikings defense, and Joe Flacco is mistake prone, right? He's going to throw some picks somewhere in there. Is he going to throw some touchdowns? Probably. So this could be a really fun situation. And Stafford also, I think, underpriced, which is why it's going to be chalky. Joe Burrow, an interesting value play also, but the Cincinnati Bengals just can't seem to get out of their own way this year, no matter what happens. They just can't seem to get on track for one reason or another, and they should get on track this week. In cash games, I think that hurts. A.J. Brown combination is going to be very productive today, so that's another good pivot in different styles. But in tournaments, you're going to have to pivot down a quarterback, and luckily you have some options here. Derek Carr is probably an option too, but I might stay away from that again. First game back, maybe you give him a little time to get his sea legs under him. And, it's a good matchup against Carolina, so it's very tempting. But I think I'd still rather go with the Staffords and still rather go with the Joe Flacco's of the world today in those tournaments.
All right, now let's go to the tight end position, where if Brock Bowers were an old-timey carny wrestler, he could be the kind of guy that would say, right before game time, you know what, I'm not going out there unless you give me X amount of money more. There were tons of wrestlers that used to do that back right before the main event. Their music would play, I'm not going out there unless you give me another $1,000. And they would hold up promoters. Brock Bowers may be the only guy in Las Vegas. He starts at 7,700. Let's give him 7,700 to go out on the field today.
Yeah. I mean, over his last 3 games, he's got 29 targets, more than 30 over his last 5 games, just unbelievable, right? The target share has just exploded for him. Now, the unfortunate thing is the Raiders aren't very good, which means he's only got 1 touchdown over that span. How that happens, I'll never know, but I guess it's just the quarterback play at the end of the day. But Bowers continues to creep up in price. The problem is he doesn't come with as much touchdown equity. That's the problem. So he's more useful on a site like DraftKings, where the full point PPR exists, as opposed to FanDuel, where you're playing for the touchdown. Ferguson at 65, Evan Ingram at 64, especially with the injury to Christian Kirk. You're going to see Ingram work a ton. He's a really good value return on investment. Sam Laporta, who we've been waiting for, and last week I was unsure if we were finally going to get the Laporta game. Well, we did. Laporta broke out, and my goodness, what an ass kicking the Detroit Lions put on the Titans last week. But Adam Troutman is an interesting one too. Now, this is a former Saint, right? A guy that, at some point crossed paths there with Sean Payton. Troutman is a guy at 4,400 that if you look at what he did last week, when all of a sudden they kind of had it with Greg Dulcich, 4 catches on 4 targets for 85 yards and a touchdown. And this week he gets the Baltimore Ravens, who have given up the most points to tight ends this year. So it's one of those odd dart throw plays where I think a tight end, it's worth it. If he just gets the touchdown, or even just has that same line without the touchdown, because a very interesting play this week. So keep an eye on Adam Troutman as a lineup builder. When we come back, it's time to buy and sell in the NFL fantasy world.
It's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week.
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was Lincoln! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Tatum has fixed that hitch. He now shoots it at the top of his jump. His release is really pure. And right now he's shooting it at 49% from three. Now, I'm not saying he's going to shoot at 49% from three for the season. But if he's at 42, 43%, Lord have mercy, look out below. Jason Tatum, right now, my number 6 player in the NBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. Ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class of the Heisman with those two games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those two games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. You know, I mean, what is he, a 6-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here. Give a shout out to Jake and Luke behind the glass. And during the break, we were all kind of talking here, and Joe has just informed me that if I ever want to take a family of four, any family of four, not just mine, to a place like Universal Studios or Disney, it's going to cost me upwards of maybe $10,000 to $15,000, and it got me to thinking, Joe.
No, that's twice as much.
Between $8,000 and $15,000. If I want to do it the way I want to do it, my point is this: everyone's.
I don't know the way you want to do it. Like you want,
I got to be done the right way.
You want Donald Duck bringing you drinks? It might cost you extra. Like I'm just saying.
It depends. All right, but the point is this: everyone I know has some type of nut they have to endure. And honestly, if you're out there and you want to provide for yourself or your family, it's going to cost money. You have a revolving account, you have a Netflix, you have a Spotify, whatever it is. All these things cost money. So why not mitigate that cost with your love of sports? And this isn't just an advertisement; it's true. Joe, since you and I have come together, I have found a way to my cell phone bill, my Netflix bill, all of my streaming bills. I apply that to my fantasy wagering, and a lot of the stuff is winning these fantasy leagues. Making trades is very important. Buy low, sell high is one of the most important tools that you can give us. So let's get into that right now. All the kidding aside, buy low, sell high. We've got 2 buys, 2 sells. Let's talk because Daddy's got some bills to pay.
Yeah, let's talk about the impact of Joe Flacco again, because I think that's the interesting bit here. So you've upgraded significantly in terms of passer from Anthony Richardson to Joe Flacco, a guy that's been there, done that, and I think is very motivated once again to take another team that's kind of floundering possibly to the playoffs. And I think that means it's a buy for 2 wide receivers right now, because Michael Pittman has been dealing with a back issue most of this year, but he's deemed himself healthy and he's been playing these last few weeks. And Michael Pittman with Flacco had a touchdown in one of those 2 games. The same thing you could say about Josh Downs. So all of a sudden the equity for both of these guys goes way up. So Josh Downs, Michael Pittman right now are both guys that if you look at, where they are, they're kind of in that wide receiver 3-ish range. But there's a good chance that rest of season these guys are going to play a lot more like wide receiver 2s. Now, maybe an Alec Pierce steps in there or something like that at some point in time. But the consistency that we've seen at times, like even you go back to last year with Gardner Minshew and Michael Pittman, right? Michael Pittman turned out a pretty good season last year, very strong year. You go back and look at the numbers for him, and I think we could all agree that Michael Pittman is very talented and Gardner Minshew is very mid. And I think that Joe Flacco can at least do what Gardner Minshew did last year, potentially. And if he does, well, last year Michael Pittman's coming off a season of 109 receptions, 1,152 yards. Now, he only had 4 touchdowns. So Joe Flacco, I think, will be a little bit better in those red zone opportunities, a little bit more consistent there. Josh Downs last year, obviously, 17 games. He was a rookie. He posted 771 yards. He only had 2 touchdowns. Now, this year he's got 3 touchdowns already. He's shown you he has the penchant for the big play. He's shown you he's got the ability to go out there and make those big over-the-top moments. And Joe Flacco still has a really good deep ball and still is a guy that can throw the football a mile. And Josh Downs becomes a really intriguing guy, especially in those half PPR leagues, because I think that touchdown equity might be more for him, whereas the PPR equity might be more for Pittman. So I think you're going to see a very different offense with Joe Flacco, like you kind of got teased a little bit when he did have those starts there in those games. And I'm excited to see this. Shane Steichen's a really good football coach. This is the guy that helped that Eagles offense get all the way within a couple plays of winning the Super Bowl. And, even last week, again, it's the splash play ability of a guy like Josh Downs that's really intriguing to me, because in flex, that's a guy that could really win you a week, right? When he has 4 catches for 109 and a touchdown, well, that's a hell of a day, and I think you're going to see a lot more of those days potentially down the road here with Joe Flacco. And I think you're going to have to look ahead right now. And I think both guys are in that they can be had for a decent amount. If you ask me who I'd rather have rest of season, T. Higgins or Michael Pittman, I think it's very close, right? Like, I think those are the kind of guys you're looking at in terms of health, in terms of, who's really playing for stuff, which teams are going in the right direction, which ones might be going the wrong direction. The Colts defense also is part of this equation because they're still not very good. So the Colts defense is still going to, allow other offenses to be in games. That's a good thing on the other side here for fantasy points. Right. So that's what you're looking for right here. So keep that in mind. These 2 Colts wide receivers are on my buy list, and I'd be going aggressive after them.
And I got to tell you, one of the most overlooked sports role models or heroes is going to be Joe Flacco. When we're going to look back, if you want to point a kid to something to strive. No, seriously, man, this guy, the joke is he gets up off his couch. He gets up off his couch. I want to be that kind of guy that walks into the locker room and everyone's kind of got to sit up straight. Because if I can do this getting up off the couch, imagine how good I can be if I really, and again, he's older too. All right, let's talk some sell points here. One older receiver had a great game. I think that's time enough to say, okay. And then this other guy, you've been talking up for a few weeks, and I'm curious as to know why you want to sell him. So let's start in Tennessee with this one receiver who's, I'd say past his prime, but still could give you a flash of brilliance here and there.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley had as many catches last week as he's had basically the whole year. 10 catches for 143 yards and still no touchdown. I'm not chasing this. New England this week, he gets Christian Gonzalez. After that, a couple weeks later, he's got Stingley. Like, it's just, it's not good. It's not sustainable with the way the quarterback play is there. So I think people are looking at it and saying, oh, DeAndre Hopkins is gone. Look at all the Calvin Ridley targets. And yeah, he did get a lot of targets, but the efficiency of those targets are troubling. And I just don't think, unless he gets traded this week, and he might, I'm just not chasing last week. So this is your chance to get out from under Calvin Ridley, who has been underwhelming to say the least all year. Now, another guy that's not underwhelming, who actually not only has met my expectations, but exceeded them the last 2 weeks, is Cedric Tillman. When that Amari Cooper trade happened, everybody was talking about Jerry Jeudy except this show. And I was talking about Cedric Tillman, and he had a really good first game without Cooper. Last week, the number was 39.5. We told you bet it, bet the touchdown, bet it all. He got 102 touchdowns last week. He was tremendous. But the thing is, his value might be at its peak. Right now, if you look at Cedric Tillman and what's ahead of him, it's a difficult schedule. Now, I'm not trying to give him away, but what I am saying about Cedric Tillman is this. If you look at, he's got 2 games left against Pittsburgh, right? Joey Porter's a really good cornerback. He's got a game against Denver left. Tough cornerback situation. A game against KC, that's a very good defense, right? So the schedule isn't great for him. His value is at its peak if somebody's going to overpay and give you somebody like a Pittman, or maybe somebody who has been underwhelming but was certainly a guy that people believed in. If you can get a Puka Nacua for him or a Cooper Kupp for him or something crazy like that, kick the tires. See what happens on a deal. Again, I'm not giving away Tillman, but this is his peak value, so see what the marketplace will yield. When we return, the deep dive.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Tatum has fixed that hitch. He now shoots it at the top of his jump. His release is really pure. And right now he's shooting it at 49% from three. Now, I'm not saying he's going to shoot at 49% from three for the season. But if he's at 42, 43%, Lord have mercy, look out below. Jason Tatum, right now, my number 6 player in the NBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class at the Heisman with those 2 games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those 2 games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. I mean, what is he, a 6-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST, Fantasy Sports Today, where the compensation is memories, to quote a very brilliant man. That's what Joe just said to me before we came on the air. I was asking him, he's coaching all these great flag football tests. Is there any compensation with that? He's like, yeah, the compensation is memories. And I actually, Joe, I bring it forward, and I love to bring the listeners and viewers into our world, our conversations. Something like that right there is a great thing to keep in mind. A lot of times we're chasing stuff and all that. A lot of times it's the memory, right? We're all on a deathbed. We're not going to wish for one extra Zoom call or one extra drop ad. We're going to remember our memories. And one of the things I like about the deep dive segment is that it really brings forward the reality, because sometimes memories can be very, very strange and not what you thought they were. But you have a deep dive here where I can't have a memory remember when there was a tandem back this dominant. And we can have this conversation, but nothing really comes to mind. Talk to me about this deep dive.
Yeah, the deep dive's on the Lions offense today, because not only have we been kicking the crap out of teams, but there's been a hangover the next week too. Like, they've been beating teams so bad that the next week they play poorly. And that's been a trend you've got to keep watching and paying attention to. That's why I kind of like the Patriots in this game today, because I think the Titans are just kind of reeling from last week physically too, not just emotionally, but they physically like to beat up teams. And I know the Hutchinson injury is huge, but this offense has really picked things up. And David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have been this incredible duo. People were like, wow, can this all coexist from a fantasy perspective? Well, it has. They are the first RB duo in the first 20 games together to each have 1,500 yards from scrimmage and 15-plus touchdowns. That is incredible when you consider how prolific they've been. They have taken on the identity of this coach, right? They are going to play smash mouth football. They're going to run. They're going to play defense. They're going to play hard every play. And that's why they are where they are in the standings right now. And they're 6-1. And there's a huge game against the Packers today where Jordan Love is going to try to soldier through this groin injury. And I am suspect of how that's going to work out. He looked really like in bad way last week in that injury that he had. And I know this is a big game for them in the season. They are sitting at 6-2. They believe if they can get this win, this will, flip this division. But, the Lions have been a really tough out here. And look, you can't forget about the Vikings either. They're a team too. They've dropped their last 2 games, but they're still in it. But the other thing that's been so important for the Lions, and I think it's going unnoticed, and we're going to talk more about in hour 2, we get to the MVP conversation. Going into the year, we talked about the schedule for Jared Goff and how there are only 3 outdoor games, and I think only 2 of them, or one of them rather, was in a bad weather spot, potentially. We'll see how things shake out as we get later into the season. But over Jared Goff's last 5 games, he is 88 for 106. That's an 83 completion percentage. He's thrown for 1,171 yards, 13 touchdowns, just 1 interception over those 5 games, and has a passer rating of 146.5. Jared Goff has been as good as you could possibly be. He is QB 10 on the year in fantasy, and he's played great. Now, Jameson Williams has been helpful, certainly. That other piece they've added in. These running backs have been great, but it's become a complete offense. You have so much to deal with when Williams, St. Brown, Laporta are all healthy on the field, and these 2 running backs. So the Lions, give them all the credit. They've surrounded Jared Goff with a lot of weapons, but Jared Goff has also been able to get the job done, and I think that's what's been so impressive. So of what you've seen from the NFC, Matt, I'm curious, do you think the Lions are that class, or do you think there's going to be a real challenger, whether it be from their own division or elsewhere, for this NFC title this year?
Well, that was the conversation that we started the show off, hour one, with all these AFC teams have all made their moves and the market's kind of calming over there. And we have really no idea what's going on in the NFC, right? Is Philadelphia the team? San Francisco still has a claim. We've been talking the fact that the Rams are alive and kicking. The Falcons are doing things. But yeah, for me, it's going to be these Detroit Lions. And it's because of Jared Goff. It's because of the schedule. But now you throw in the fact that teams have to account for not 1, but 2 running backs that are going to be consistent in addition to all the other weapons. You also mentioned how Laporta finally now is starting to come around. I mean, this team is picking the perfect time to get back to where they need to be and not make the same mistakes that they made last season. So, yeah, I think the Lions, maybe the Eagles. I mean, I return serve back to you. The Falcons, these are the teams on the tip of my tongue for the NFC.
Yeah, I just wonder about the Eagles' defense. That's the thing. The offense is good. It's the defense where I continue to struggle there, especially in the secondary. You can still throw on them, so I think they're a tough sell. The Commanders are really fun. I'm not going to lie. Like, they seem like that team that's just got that weird it factor. They're this year's versions of the Texans, and I think every year there's a team that kind of pops like that. The Rams are dangerous because of the veteran presence of that quarterback and that coach. So that's another team that I think is very dangerous. Don't love the defense, but I love the coach, and I just think he's one of the best football minds you're ever going to find. So the NFC is still very interesting. I think the biggest challenger still comes from within that division of the Green Bay Packers, because they are a young, hungry team, and they are, going to fight tooth and nail here with the Lions. So this should be a great football game today and a great finish to the second half. When we return, hour 2, the starts, the sits, the injuries, and a whole lot more. We'll be right back after this.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Tatum has fixed that hitch. He now shoots it at the top of his jump. His release is really pure. And right now he's shooting it at 49% from 3. Now, I'm not saying you can shoot at 49% from 3 for the season. But if he's at 42, 43%, Lord have mercy, look out below. Jason Tatum, right now, my number 6 player in the NBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in the set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Are you okay with him moving to the head of the class at the Heisman with those 2 games? Because he wasn't even in the discussion before those 2 games.
This is a big opportunity for Dylan if he wants to continue to make his case for the Heisman Trophy, and I think he's shown that. What is he, a 6th-tier player who's going to probably end up setting most of the passing marks because he's been around for so long? So why not also throw a Heisman Trophy in the mix?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.